Hey again, people. Man, this shooting down in Texas is getting worse and worse by the minute. The multitude of government failures that people need to realize, I just don't get it. There are still people defending these cops. I mean, the programming that you cannot talk about government, which we all know government's incompetent. Anybody that works for government knows government's incompetent. And the fact that there are cops that want to give the impression that all cops are great, all cops are heroes, all cops are wonderful is just, it just boggles my mind that there could actually be somebody that actually works in government that think that's true. Anybody that works in government knows they hire incompetence. It's not about your ability. They hire you because of what bathroom, what color, there's all, who's your friend, whether you're related. Government never rises to the top and has the best of anything. Doesn't mean there's not some good people in government. Okay? I'm just telling you, these people who are defending these cops blindly are just crazy. And evidently Tatum, I think his name's Brandon Tatum, but I think it goes by Officer Tatum. Guy seems like a pretty good guy to me. He came here. He's giving me a couple tips. He seems like a reasonable guy. He's definitely more, I think, a little bit more pro-cop than maybe he should be. Maybe a little bit blinded by his loyalty because he was a cop. You know, but man, I am getting so many comments that his video did nothing but say what a great job the cops did, that I normally, I wouldn't go after somebody because I don't want to, like, be getting a fight, but I'm going to do a video after this one on Tatum's video because I have gotten so many comments saying, dude, you got to go watch Tatum. He is defending these cops. So I'm going to go watch it, not to trash him, but to give an alternative view on what he's saying from a cop's perspective. All right. So let's get to this video on how it's getting worse. Let me tell you something. 11-year-old kid covered herself in blood, was on the phone with 911 asking for help. 19 officers were in the hallway armed, and they left her in there. Now, how do you defend the indefensible? I don't know. I am really just shocked. And I'm getting a lot of heat from cops coming here talking about I'm the problem, I'm making it worse, it's a tough... I don't want to hear that bullshit. Government needs to be held accountable, okay? This, hopefully, is a reckoning to the government failures over and over and over again, and government's answer over and over again is more laws and more government, okay? Let's not forget 9/11, government failures, guys with box cutters crash planes, total government failure, and what were we told? Oh, it was a communication issue. We needed more government. We created the TSA. We had to do all this government growth, billions and billions, if not trillions of dollars, because government failed to read the signs and get the information they had. In this case, government failure left and right. The last shooting, we went on and on about how we need to have better policies. We made no gun zones. We had a sign that said no gun zone. Maybe if we put another sign saying you can't shoot kids, maybe we'll put another sign that says teachers need to lock the doors. Teachers didn't lock the doors. They propped the doors open. They violated policy. That's what normally happens in government. You hire substandard people. You can't fire them. They continue to get promoted because they know somebody, because they're incompetent, because you want to get them out of the way of the people that really need to do the work. Whatever the reason, it always comes back to government failure. And then people want government to sit here and listen to them about, oh, we need to get the guns. We need more gun laws. We need to take guns away from good people. If you saw these parents being held down by cops with guns because they didn't have guns, and now you want to give up your guns more, you're a freaking idiot. But I digress. Let's get to this sad, heartbreaking story that should really drive home why government failure is so bad and why these cops are cowards and nobody had the balls to step up and go, I ain't waiting. And I'll cover that in the other video. Here we go.
And wanted to share her story to help other children. Now, we've been talking to the family of 11-year-old Miah Cerrillo, who...
Okay, so Mia's 11 years old. She was inside, watched people get shot, watch her teacher get shot, and she gave an interview. Man, what a brave little girl.
Was wounded in the...
A lot braver than the 19 cops in the hall. When I heard that I'm going to do a press release after this, the last press release, because I haven't watched it all. When he said there was 19 cops in the hallway, but they didn't hear anything, so they waited, I was just like, are you freaking 19 armed cops, bulletproof vests, shields, long guns, those mean AR automatic rifles with high cap mads, 19 cops in the hallway while this 11-year-old is on the phone with 911 asking, why aren't people coming to help me? Out freaking outrageous, and people are defending the cops. Are you kidding me?
Fourth grade classroom. Miah wants the world to know what she saw, what she lived through. But Miah is so scared of men right now because of what happened.
Now, normally I would say this, she's scared of men, is a typical left-wing brainwashing. We're going to group all men or all women or all black people or all white people, or we're going to do this grouping bullshit that the left loves to do to divide us. I would call bullshit on this. This kid's 11 years old. She went through a traumatic incident. When kids go through traumatic incidents, they have because they can't grasp the concepts. Remember, kids get in trouble because they can't see around corners. They don't see the consequences of their actions. Unlike cops that wait in a hallway while kids are getting killed, they don't. There's a difference between not seeing the consequences of your actions and not caring and being a coward. But I digress. Let's get back to this child. She was traumatic. She's scared of men right now. A man had a gun. A man shot her teacher. A man. So this to me is reasonable. Normally I'd call left-wing bullshit, but to me this is reasonable. This is a child. I've done child investigations. I've interviewed children with sex things. I understand there is a different mentality when you're working with children. So 11 years old, let's not forget, even though she did shit better than the armed cops, this is an 11-year-old mindset. But her thought process and survival is really amazing. I would love, if I was closer, for this little girl to come ride my horse or to see my horse if somebody knows her. Horses are a huge healing thing for traumatic. They're big, they're strong, they're soft, they're kind. The old saying, there's nothing better for the inside of a man than the outside of a horse. Horses are really therapeutic. If not my horse, somebody around there, if she hasn't been around a horse, I would recommend it. I mean, if she knew me and was a fan and knew Buddy on my horse channel, man, I would love to make myself available to spend time with her and a horse and let her do whatever, paint my horse's toenails or groom him, whatever. Little girls like to do things like that with a horse. Anyway, here we go.
That she only feels comfortable speaking with women. She also did not want to go on camera. She did agree to speak with my partner, CNN producer Nora Noose. Nora, you were in...
Before we get into this about the talking, she only wanted to talk to women. Some rape victims are that way. A guy just raped them and violated them, and they're so upset. They really don't want a man around them. Well, I get. Some women, when they're raped, they like having a man around them because it makes them feel safe, and they know they're not going to get hurt. So it's not all women don't want a man around them because they're raped, and maybe not all kids. And I just want you to understand, I'm drawing from my experiences of dealing and working in law enforcement all these years. I understand kind of the concepts and what's going on, but nothing's in a box. Remember, totality of circumstances is what we always hear.
With Miah and her mother. I want to make clear her mother was there the whole time. What did she tell you?
So 11-year-old Miah Cerrillo was in that fourth grade classroom that we've heard so much about with Miss Garcia and Miss Morales. She said they were watching Lilo and Stitch because it was the end of the school year. They'd finished their lessons. And she said one of her teachers got an email that there was a shooter in the building.
So this is critical. Remember the cops that took 12 minutes to get there in a small town? And then we see all these videos of over 200 cops, all these federal agents, ATF, DEA, FBI, U.S. Marshal, all these cops, the DPS out there arresting parents, holding parents back while the shooter's in there killing kids. This kid's in there this whole time. I mean, the concept of this is what outrages me and why I use terms like pussies and cowards. And I just can't believe there wasn't a man there with a freaking gun that said, I ain't waiting. I don't give a shit. And people are going, Rick, you're not. Look, I've been there. I've done things. I was known as not a team player because I was a hot dog. I was a loner. I was going to get hurt. I was going to do something that was going to get me killed. That's how cowards explain what men do. I ran into danger. I chased guys by myself. Me and my partner would go in. We would do more. We would do things that normally cops would want 15 or 20 people to do because the law enforcement is filled with a bunch of pussy cops. I mean, that's what they're hiring now. Even the psychological test of hiring cops now is, we don't want the mean, aggressive, meat-eating cop. We need the police who are more sensitive, who are more tolerant, who are willing to wear pink, who are willing to be in touch with their sensitive side. Because those mean, aggressive cops that would go in and save children and risk their life, they're not good. We don't like them. Consequences. Results. I mean, it's not rocket science, people. Rick, all cops are great, and they're wonderful, and I can't believe... Shut up with that shit.
And when
this kid is a hero, the mom that ignored the cops that they arrested, and she climbed the fence and ignored the freaking tyrannical DPS cops that were holding down parents, and she went in and got her kids and said, I don't need government. I don't need you bully, you men with guns who are too afraid to go attack the guy that's killing kids, and now you're going to keep me from getting my kids. That woman, she's a hero. Rick, that's not fair, man. Those cops had a tough job. Shut up with all that crap.
went to the door and he was right there. And they made eye contact.
The shooter made eye contact with the teacher.
With the teacher, and then he shot out the window in the door. And then Miah says it just happened all so fast. He backed the teacher into the classroom.
Okay, so right here, remember, when you're dealing with little kids, they don't articulate things well. So you have to be able to ask things and get information out without, you know, when I'm interviewing a bad guy, I'll be like, man, you're full of shit. You know damn well I got your fingerprint. That's different. I'm dealing with an adult. You can't do that to get information from a child. But there are ways to get information. So she's saying shot through the window and then forced his way in. Why wasn't the door locked? I mean, did the teacher open the door for the bad guy? I mean, first of all, we had a teacher that propped the door open that shouldn't have been open. We had an SRO, a school resource officer, that was supposed to be there, that we paid taxpayer money, that we told after the last school shootings the government was gonna fix it. If we only gave them more money and we had more police and we had more armed people, then we could take the guns, we could make it a gun-free zone, and that would keep you safe. And again, SRO wasn't there, government's never there, they can't be everywhere, I get it, but for you to believe that taking away guns from good people and giving government more power so they can withhold cops, meanwhile, I think it was Miss Gomez, she said, screw you, went around, climbed a fence, and went and got her 2 kids out of that school. She's a freaking hero. And I'm surprised DPS isn't swearing out a warrant for her for violating a crime scene. I'm surprised they're not trying to arrest her. That's what they're good at. Give her a ticket for trespassing. Give her a ticket for unlawfully entering the school over a fence. That's what DPS is good at. Department of Public Safety, the Texas State Police, man, you guys are freaking weak. Your whole press conferences, and I'm going to do the next press conference you did, just disgusting on the incompetence of you and defending of cops and cowards and lying. But I digress. Let's get back to this little girl. I still don't understand how the shooter pushed through the door if it was locked. Remember, the cops are telling us they couldn't breach the door. So how the hell does an 18-year-old punk push through a door when the cops can't breach it? All these questions keep coming up.
And he made eye contact with the teacher again, looked her right in the eye and said, good night, and then shot her and killed her.
Okay, so this kid, remember, this is very vivid. The kid says she was in the room, she thought, for 3 hours, even though she was in there for an hour. Time slows down. She can't process. She's in fear. Her mind's going a mile. She can't. This is just so sad. She watches her teacher The window gets shot out, and then her teacher gets shot, okay? 11 years old.
He said good night before he shot her.
Good night. And then it happened pretty fast after that as well. He started open firing in the classroom. He hit the other teacher, a lot of Mia's friends.
She's watching, an 11-year-old kid is watching her teacher, another teacher, and her friends get shot. This is all context, people. I'm not trying to make this into some dramatic thing like people are accusing me of. This is what people need to realize when you have 19 armed cops outside waiting because of officer safety, because somebody shot at them and they wanted to wait for backup. Freaking cowardly acts. I'm sorry, it just is. And maybe there was a good couple of cops in there that wanted to do something, and they decided to listen to orders or follow policy, or they didn't want to be called a non-team player, and they wanted to fit in to the code blue. See, all the people that are yelling cops are great now and wonderful and they're heroes and they aren't bad and they aren't cowards, these are the same people that would do exactly what these cops did. They want to fit in so bad that they would never talk about their own. Okay? Kind of like the priests, the Catholic priests that were defending the Catholic priests molesting kids. The Catholic priests that were moving priests that were molesting kids to other areas. All that is this indoctrination of I have to protect my little turf in my area, because if I don't protect them, then I'm bad for being part of them. I didn't give a shit. I'll call out a cop in a minute. I got no time for dirty cops, coward, or pussy cops. Sorry. I did it when I was working. Don't come here and tell me I probably didn't do it. I did it. I got hate for it. I wasn't the most popular guy, but I didn't care.
At that point, Miah was hit by fragments of the bullets. You could even see them yesterday. I mean, on her back, on her shoulders, the back of her head.
Watches her teacher get shot. Guy enters, shoots another teacher, shoots all these kids, and gets hit with shrapnel and is bleeding. 11 years old. Okay? Rick, cops are heroes, and it was a scary situation. I just can't believe people are defending these fucking cops. And you got 11-year-old, I'm sorry, I didn't want to say that word. You got 11-year-olds sitting in there going through this. And there's adult men outside with guns. And what are they doing? They're holding parents back and arresting them and tasing them and pepper spraying parents who want to go in and save their children. This is the government you get when you start worshiping law enforcement. They're great. Government's great. They'll protect us. Let's give up our guns because we can believe government. You're an idiot. I've done that my whole life. I have seen government fail. I've worked in government for 30 plus years of my life. I understand this. Okay?
The shooter then, she says, went into the adjoining classroom.
Yeah, so he went through this door to the adjoining classroom, and at that point, Miah could hear screams. She heard a lot more.
I'm not getting the things on this. We have adjoining classrooms with no door that can't be locked. So if the shooter gains access to one classroom, he has access to two. I don't believe that. I think it could have been locked and it wasn't locked. Why was there two teachers in two classrooms in one room? I think they opened the door because they were scared and they wanted to talk or corroborate or try to get a plan. Whatever the reason, that door shouldn't have been open. Again, government failure, lack of policy. You can have all the money and all the things in place, and through tactics in government and the military and police, the number one failure will always be the human error. Always. But you know what? Not going in when kids are getting shot isn't an error. It's a cowardly act. It's fear. It's this prima donna attitude that our cops have, that we're so tough. We get all this military gear. You can't question us. We're going to run around and arrest people for not wearing a mask. We're going to shut down businesses. We're going to follow orders and be the enemy of American tax-paying citizens. And then we're going to claim hero status. And if you talk about us, you must be a bad guy. You must be Antifa. You're the bad guy for talking about our failures and our weaknesses. I just don't get it.
More gunfire. And then she said she heard music. She thinks it was the gunman that put it on. He started blasting sad music. And I asked her, like, what was that? Like, what kind of music? What do you mean by that? And she just said, it sounded like I want people to die music.
Okay, so we're getting, remember, this shooting happened 5 days ago. We're getting all this information from other people. Remember, the government, the police, the strong highway patrol, the Department of Public Safety came out at first, and we went in and we killed the shooter. And he had already killed, we never heard about 19 people in a home. We didn't hear that they waited an hour. We didn't hear that they were tasing and arresting parents. We didn't hear that a woman had to climb the fence after she was arrested by a federal U.S. Marshal, which has no freaking business being there. And she climbed a fence and went and got her kids. We didn't hear any of that. I'm telling you, people, this is the problem when you put your faith in a media that protects government. And I'm really shocked that the media is actually coming out against government. Our media has been such a lapdog of government and government abuses and failure to call them out that I'm really shocked that the media is actually, I don't think they're covering it on their own. There is so much good people out there that are getting information out. It's harder and harder for the media to ignore it. That's what's happening.
She said she heard music. She said it sounded like I want people to die music.
Okay, so she's identifying it, I want people to die music. I'm thinking from that, I didn't hear her, and the cops aren't releasing, hey, we got this tape on this guy, here's the music, he was playing the scene. We're not hearing any details. They do these press briefings because they're dragging it out. This is the ploy of government. It's always, even when I was working government, especially politicians like the DA I work for, he was always about, this will go away. There'll be another crisis in a few days. All we got to do is ride this out for a couple days. Let's stretch this out. People will forget and they'll move on. And that's how government continues to keep being the failures they are. And then they come up with all these grand plans of more laws and more law enforcement and more rules. And if we take guns away from good people, that'll fix the problem of government failure and bad people. She's saying, I want people to die music. I'm thinking it's Headbanger, the screaming and the yelling music, the heavy metal. That's why I could be wrong. There's going to be somebody here that likes heavy metal. Man, why are you picking up music? It's not that. I'm just telling you, from a kid's perspective, when she says, I want people to die music, I hear in my mind, yeah, die. You know, I hear that screaming, yelling, hard, crazy, mosh pit shit music. That's what I hear when this kid describes, I want people to die music. Okay? Could be wrong. I'm just saying.
What did Miah do then?
So she had a friend next to her that she was pretty sure was already dead and was laying on the ground bleeding out. And she put her hands in her friend's blood and then smeared it, she said, all over her body.
What a freaking brilliant, good little kid. See, I want to talk to her when she gets older and she can talk about this. I want to know what gave her that idea. Where did she come up with that plan? Did she see it in a movie? Did she read it in a book? Did somebody tell her that? How did an 11-year-old come up with a plan that I'm going to look like? This is common sense for tactical guys. I mean, if you're being overrun or you're coming in there, vets have been doing that. Military people do that. If you got to blend in and play dead in order for the threat to pass or to go around you, I mean, that's a pretty high-tech thing for an 11-year-old kid to come up with. This is just really a true hero little girl who got caught in a horrible situation, and she freaking survived. And I hope people are telling her that, because she's going to feel bad. I used my friend's blood. I shouldn't have done that. She was dead. It was disrespectful. She's going to have conflicting views about doing that. And she needs to be told, you did the right, you survived. Nothing else matters. You did the right thing. Okay? You were in there. You were unarmed. You were alone. You had to do what you did. And your friend would want you to. If my buddy wants to use my blood to cover up, to save his life, and I'm dead, knock yourself out, dude. Use my blood. I got no problem with that. And most reasonable people wouldn't. But for a child to get that concept, there's always this survivor guilt that why did I live and they didn't? And it gets all complicated instead of like, you know what? You survived. You did the right thing. Okay? You did some hard choices and you did what you needed to do. kind of like the cops did. They got shot at, so they ran. They got shot at, and they put 19 people in the hallway, and they didn't want to enter the scary room because they thought it was a hostage situation. Even if it was a hostage situation, you got kids that are hostage. He's already killed people. People don't understand when you're working SWAT and law enforcement. As a SWAT guy, and I've started SWAT teams, I've ran SWAT teams, I've been on SWAT teams. As a SWAT guy, when we get on scene, we're working on two plans. We're working on a long-term plan if negotiations fail, on tactical, what's our best advantage, and we're constantly working on that plan. The second plan is if this goes to shit and he starts shooting people, we got to go in now. Okay? That's what the cops should have done. You don't have to be a SWAT guy to do that. You just got to be a freaking man and go, I'm not going to let kids get slaughtered, even if I got to take rounds, even if I got to get shot. I might get this guy. I'm going to give these kids some time. That's what a man does. Cowards put 19 armed guys in a hallway while this 11-year-old is covering herself in blood and calls 911 and asks, why aren't people coming in to help? Are you freaking... Why aren't all these 911 tapes being released? This is why the Freedom of Information Act, this is why people have to get information from government. Government will lie and cover up. It's what they do. It's what anybody does. These cops are doing it now. Other cops are doing it. They're defending their own with a lot of bullshit because people don't have the facts to make their own decision. We got to get all the 911 tapes that were called in during this whole entire incident. Outrageous.
She wanted to seem like, she wanted to look like she was dead. She was scared that the gunman was going to come back through that adjoining door back into the classroom.
This is really, I mean, this little girl is just, she really amazes me because she's got more sense than a lot of freaking pussy cops that I've worked with over the years, that she's thinking ahead, that he just shot my teacher. He just shot my friends. He's in the next room shooting people. And she has the ability and the concept to go, you know what? I'm going to put some blood on me. I'm going to act like I'm dead in case he comes back. Man, this is just, I mean, people are going to say, Rick, you're morbid. And I'm telling you, this is tactical genius to me. And this is an 11-year-old that's putting this plan together on the fly in the middle of chaos. Wow. Man, this little girl's a hero.
And she wanted to be able to play dead.
She also told you that she called 911.
Yeah, so after she smeared the blood all over her body, she and a friend went and were able to take the phone off of one of the teachers.
Man, these kids, it just breaks my heart. Just think about this. In the middle of all this chaos, blood, and dead bodies, these little kids are thinking, I got to get the phone. I'm going to call 911. I'm going to go to my dead teacher. I'm going to smear blood on me. These little kids are on their own while cops are arresting and tasing parents. Why government, with all their answers on how they're going to fix this, government, with all the power and all the guns, are outside arresting parents, and these little kids are in here surviving. Wow.
Who had already been killed. And they called 911 and they were actually able to phone off of one of her body. She and a friend went and were able to take the phone off of one of the teachers who had already been killed. And they called 911 and they were actually able to make contact with the dispatcher. And I talked to a dispatcher for a little while and told them what was going on inside.
Talk to a dispatcher for a little while. Man, how can cops defend cops when you've got an 11-year-old in there crying for help and they're saying, we need to wait for a SWAT team? 19 armed guys. I'm telling you, man, this story gets worse and worse every day. And the more I hear people defending these cops and their actions and government, it just makes me freaking sick on the ignorance of people.
And Miah kept telling me that she kept saying, we're in trouble, like, please come, we're in trouble.
One of the interesting things you told me is that Miah said to you that she felt like it all lasted for 3 hours.
Yeah, she was like, oh yeah, I was in there for 3 hours. And her mom said, well, sweetheart, I think it was closer to 1 hour, but I'm sure it felt that way.
And what did Miah think the police were doing during this time?
She said she thought the police just hadn't gotten there yet, that somehow they just weren't there yet.
Even an 11-year-old can't conceive that cops would be there and not come in. It's just, this 11-year-old has more insight than our entire freaking federal government, that she has a concept that of misunderstanding, like, it must be they're not here. Otherwise, they would surely come in, right? They can't be. I can't imagine that they would be here and not come in. This is an 11-year-old that had to smear blood on her, that's climbing around dead bodies watching her teacher get shot, and she's calling 911, and she can't understand that the cops wouldn't be there and not come in. And yet you have cops out here defending these cops. I just don't get it.
And she said, she'd been pretty stoic up until this point in the interview. And this was actually when she started getting emotional and started crying. She said, I heard the grown-ups later say the police were outside and that they weren't coming in.
Okay, so this 11-year-old watched her teacher get shot, is crawling around dead bodies, getting a phone, calls 911, and now she hears the adults say the cops are outside. How do you think that made her feel? And people are like worried about the cops are getting a bad rap right now. Rick, law enforcement's getting a bad rap. You should be supporting them. This isn't fair. Dude, what's not fair is that idiots could defend this cowardly act and this total failure of government. And then they want to defend it.
And she got emotional talking to me about this and said, why didn't they come in? Why didn't they save us? Why the police were outside? Like, she just like couldn't. It was clear in her 11-year-old brain. I mean, in my brain, why they wouldn't come in and help and save her.
So again, you spent some time with her and her mother. She's obviously just been through the worst thing, hopefully, that she'll ever go through in her entire life. How did she seem to you? How did she look to you?
Honestly, not great. She seems completely traumatized. Physically, she's mostly okay. She has these bullet fragments all over the back of her shoulders and her back and the back of her head.
Good thing when those cops took rounds, they ran away with their vest and guns, because we wouldn't want them to have shrapnel. Officer safety. Fucking just pisses me off.
She said overnight a lot of her hair fell out in just kind of big clumps from where the bullet fragments had hit. So she's bummed about that. But just
now, see, this is a typical love you. She's bummed about her hair falling out, and this is why. I mean, a lot of people didn't like Michael Jackson, and he was a child perv, and he had some major issues. But when there was a school shooting, he visited the school, and they found that when doing traumatic events with kids, when there is a huge, good, emotional, provoking event, it helps minimize the trauma. But trauma has to be pushed back. I'm not no psychologist. I don't know all about PTSD. There's guys that deal with this shit that have more. I'm not a psychologist. I'm just telling you, it takes time. And I know working with animals is the same way. When an animal fails and you're training it, it takes a while to push it back. And I used to describe it like, right now, the failure is at the front. If it's a file cabinet or a drawer, when something bad happens, it's at the front of the drawer. It just happened. Over time, as we replace new files of good things and better things and knowledge and experience, the bad thing file gets pushed to the back of the drawer. So when there's an emotional event like this, Michael Jackson went to the school and visited the kids, and I thought that was just a great selfish thing that he did, or unselfish thing that he did, to go out there and help the kids. Now, was he trying to get them to his house? I don't know. We can get into all that. This is a great story of this 11-year-old kid who has more concept of survival, who did more, who took action. An 11-year-old took action. She called 911. She got her phone from her dead teacher. She watched her teacher and kids get killed. She covered herself in blood to play dead. She was thinking ahead. This is an 11-year-old kid doing all this. Meanwhile, We're defending government with over 200 cops outside, 19 armed cops out here later before they entered. I don't know how many cops are there. We're not finding that out. And people are defending them, saying they're getting a bad rap. And it's not fair to call them cowards, Rick. And they aren't cowards. They were doing procedure. They were following orders. And you got this 11-year-old kid doing that? You got a single mom with no gun, no bulletproof vest, climbing a fence to rescue her kids after a federal U.S. Marshal handcuffed her because she was interfering with the cops staying outside while her kid was in a school with a shooter killing people. I mean, it's literally bizarro land.
Just, I mean, completely traumatized. And her parents are trying to get her some kind of therapy help. And they'll probably have to drive her to San Antonio for that.
Okay, so they did a GoFundMe for this kid. I'm not a big GoFundMe guys because GoFundMe makes a lot of money, and they suppress a lot of, they pick and choose on who they want. They're going to let this kid, because they know. Last time I checked her GoFundMe, she had, I think, 300,000. Maybe it was 267, 280. That was last night. I'm sure it's up to more now. I don't know if they put it. Let's see if they put the link here. Oh no, I copied this so I could pause it and do it. There's a link. I'll slide in a picture on what her GoFundMe is at this point when I did the video. Really, really great story. Great, brave child. Braver than the cops who were armed outside, letting this child go through this by herself. We're not getting a whole bunch on what 911 told her. Why the cops didn't come in. What did 911 say? I want to hear this tape on the dispatcher saying the cops don't want to go in yet. The cops are outside. I want to hear how another government flunky explained this to this 11-year-old kid who was covered in blood trying to live. Out freaking outrageous. The great story, great hero. I'm going to go do another video now because, man, I'm tired of dealing with this because it's really depressing, but this needs to get out. People need to wake up. This is a great learning opportunity on why we have to get a hold of our damn government, which is out of control and is brainwashing the media and the people that we're good, we'll make more laws, we'll keep you safe, we're going to take your guns to keep you safe, we're going to put up a sign at a school that says a gun-free zone so good people can't carry a gun. Meanwhile, you know damn well criminals don't give a shit. You think this guy cared about a gun-free zone? Of course not. But we have mainly liberal politicians. We got a bunch of piece of shit conservatives saying, yeah, if we put up more signs, that'll keep you safe. Freaking bullshit. Anyway, I digress. I don't want to get jacked up. I'm going to go watch this interview. I got to post this. Y'all have a good day.